This is our time.
Hi, I'm Emily from Pony Mag, and today we're going to be clipping Lady. We're going to give her a nice blanket clip. So we're going to start by giving Lady a quick groom because she had a bath yesterday to make sure that her hair was grease-free to make it easier to clip so it doesn't clog the clippers up. But as you can see, she's got a little bit of mud from the field, so we'll just give that a quick flick off with a brush and then we'll be ready to clip.
So here I am just giving Lady a bit of a brush with the body brush. For this type of mud, it didn't really need anything stiffer than a body brush, but if your pony's got thick mud on them, they may need a stiffer but dandy brush. So I'm just being really careful here around Lady's ears and her eyes because they can be quite delicate areas. So when you're brushing, you're wanting to make sure that you're always brushing in the direction of the hair and not against the hair because that's not particularly comfortable for them. So here I'm just giving her a really good groom, making sure that she's nice and clean. When you're down by your horse's legs, always make sure you're crouching rather than kneeling on the floor, just in case they move. It's important to always be able to get up and get away from them quickly. So when it comes to brushing their hind legs, make sure that you're always standing to the side of their body, because if they were to react in any way, if you caught them by surprise, by accident, then you can move quickly to one side without anybody getting injured.
Today we're going to give Lady a nice blanket clip. She's in work about 5 times a week, and as her winter coat has come through pretty thick, she's now starting to get pretty hot when we ride her. So to make her more comfortable, we're going to give her a blanket clip. And a blanket clip, we're going to just trace along this line here and keep the saddle patch on. We're going to come along and take her belly off, and then we go up and over the stifle and along all the way round to the back. And then we'll try and make it even on both sides. She is then going to be turned out overnight, so she's then going to have a slightly warmer rug on overnight to make sure that she stays warm enough.
So this is our clipping setup. So we have got our main big clippers and a battery pack, because these are battery powered, so they don't need to be plugged into the mains. Then we've also got a set of trimmers, which are perfect for the more delicate areas or slightly more intricate patterns, anything like that. And then we also have got the clipper oil, which is important for oiling the clipper blades before you use them. Then we like to use an old toothbrush to clean any excess hair off of the clippers to make sure that they're nice and clean. So it's really important to make sure that you oil your clippers, as this helps to reduce friction and prevents the clippers from snagging or pulling the hair as you cut it. So you can just spray a little bit before using them and then as you need to while you're clipping.
So the first thing we're going to do is just introduce the clippers. So I'm going to show Lady the clippers to show her what we're about to do, so she can have a little sniff and a look and just see that they're not going to hurt her in any way. And then what I'm next going to do is turn the clippers on so that she can get used to the noise while they're not touching her. So I'm going to turn them on now. Good girl. Sit. And then you can just move around. And she's not reacting, so that's really good. You can give her a nice pat, make sure that she's happy. She doesn't seem fazed by that at all. So next we can start by getting a little patch on her. So the next thing we're going to do is just put the clippers onto Lady's skin so that she can get a feel for them without them being on or doing anything. We'll just lay the clippers on her, not running, so that she knows what's coming. Good girl, that's it. She's absolutely fine. So now we can get clipping. So depending on how the clip's going, if it's cutting the hair really nicely, you don't need to change anything on the tension. But if you're not quite happy with how the clip is cutting the hair, you can tighten the tension on the blades a little bit by turning the spring at the top. So we're just going to tighten that up a little bit. So when you're clipping, you want to make sure that the blades are flat against their skin as you clip, and you want to be going against the direction of hair so that you're cutting up from underneath as well. So if there's any bony bits or bits that have got in a bit of a curve, you can make sure that you pull the skin nice and taut so that you can get in without the skin pinching at all. And it's important to make sure that you keep taking lots of little breaks and testing the clippers against your skin, because they can get quite hot if you use them a lot. So you can just run them against the palm of your hand and feel the temperature, and these aren't too hot at all, so that's absolutely fine.
When you're clipping near their mane, you want to make sure to get close enough to the hairline, but not too close that you're actually clipping their mane off, unless you're going for a hogged look, because otherwise it can take off quite large chunks of mane. So just be really careful when you're doing this line not to take off too much.
So midway through your clipping, your clippers may start to not clip quite so well, so you can reapply the clipper oil and you run the clippers.
If you're not feeling particularly confident about the line that you want to clip, you can always use your finger or a piece of chalk to trace the line, and so that you can step back and take a look from a distance at how the line goes along the body, and that can help you decide whether that's the right line that you want. And then if not, you can just brush it off and start again, and you can just keep trying until you've got the line that you want. If you want really smooth lines when you're clipping, the most important thing to do is long strokes. So instead of really short little clips where you put the blades on and take them off, take nice long strokes along the line that you're following, so that you get nice clean lines. So this should minimise the amount of grooves and little bits that you miss.
Whilst you're clipping, you can double check to see if you've got all the hair that might be on show by putting your numner on. So if you wanted to, you could make it the shape of your numner. If you wanted it to look really smart, you could take it up a little bit higher and take this section out as well.
So here you can see I've started doing the girth area, which is starting to get a little bit more tricky. So here you could switch into using the trimmers if you find it easier. You can also see that I'm holding with one hand lady's skin, and this is so that I can guide the clippers and make sure that no excess skin is getting caught.
So if there's any particularly fiddly bits, like under the armpit and round the girth area, sometimes it's easier to ask a friend to lift their leg up and out. So I'm going to ask my friend Kirsty to come along and lift her leg up for me.
When you reach the hindquarters on a blanket clip, you'll want to taper the line on a diagonal from a few inches to a hand above the hock, all the way up to the stifle. So that can be one long line sort of following the muscle up. When you're clipping the stifle area, what you want to do is take your clipper blade on an upright position and then turn it so that you're creating a half circle, and then you can do this on both sides so that you're going in the opposite direction of the hair on both ways where it swirls round.
So I'm pretty happy with how the lines have turned out, but if you're not feeling confident about going straight in and doing the lines, you can always get a bit of chalk and you can draw the lines on first, or a bit like what I did, and you can run your finger along and leave a bit of a mark.
When it comes to clipping your pony's face, you can either put their bridle on so that you can see exactly where the line is going to go, or a bit like how I've done, I've unclipped the head collar, and so you can see that there's a straight line straight down her cheek that you can follow. If you want it to look really neat when your pony's wearing their bridle, I would recommend putting their bridle on and clipping right up to the cheek piece, and then making sure that you've got a nice straight line. So as you can see, Lady has been very relaxed whilst I've been clipping her. She normally falls asleep, she absolutely loves it. But if your horse is feeling a bit fidgety or keeps moving around, then you can always give them a hay net, which should help them to be a bit more distracted and keep them more still. So here I am giving Lady a quick brush with the body brush just to get rid of any excess hair before we do a hot cloth on her.
So you might get quite hairy while you're clipping from all the little short hairs. So you may want to wear like an overall, but if you don't have an overall, just some old clothes or clothes that you can chuck in the wash.
The next thing we're going to do is give Lady a hot cloth. So you can do this with either a microfiber cloth or just a sponge will do. So these are really good for all of the short hair clippings, as well as soothing the skin post clip and adding some shine to their coat. So all you'll need is to get some water in a bucket, as warm as it feels comfortable to put your hand in. Then you need a splash of no rinse wash or some coat oil. Then all you need to do is saturate the cloth or sponge with the water and wring it out really well. And then you can just start wiping down their coat until you've covered their whole body, and then they should come out looking really nice and shiny.
So here is the finished look. Lady is all clipped. Thank you so much for watching.